Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church, Little Lutheran Church in Amherst, New York. We welcome you to our broadcast on YouTube this morning. Well, this is the last Sunday of the church year. It's November 24 of 2024. And as with the last 3 Sundays of the church year, it's always the same thing in dealing with end times. And Jesus has a little story to tell us. Just to preface it, before we read the text from Matthew chapter 25, Jesus has a sense of humor. And so sometimes he makes junk up. And I love it when Christians go, well, you know, I take the Bible literally. Okay. Go to school, please. Learn something. For God's sake, please learn something, because that just sounds stupid. When Jesus tells this story about the bride and bridegroom and the wedding and the helpers with their little oil lamps, and the bridegroom is late to his own wedding, none of that's how it works. Jewish weddings, Jewish family life, let's start there. Jewish family life is built around the idea of co-wives. So, like, when people say we have biblical marriage, we have biblical marriage here. I think to myself, no, you don't. I can't tell them what they're actually doing because it's not biblical. But I don't want to, break up their brains. Biblical marriage worked like this, and it goes back all the way to before Moses, long before Moses. Men were commanded to marry, women are not. And all the women are going, yes! But, there's the big but. Women are under an umbrella. And that's just because when you live out in little villages in the middle of God only knows where, and you have little armies running by and groups of bandits, you need some big hulking guys good with swords and spears and junk and bow and arrow to protect the women and children, because if you're, 8 months pregnant and you're trying to grab a sword and fight some guy on a horse, I'm going to guess you're not going to win. You're going to lose badly. This is not being sexist or nothing. It's just that's how it works, you see. And so the villages were built around the men basically offering protection and doing the heavy lifting. The women, I'm not saying there weren't heavy lifting. If you carried a baby 9 months, that's as much heavy lifting as a guy couldn't do it. It'd kill a guy. We couldn't bear that. It'd be too much. But that was the structure. And then, since women weren't commanded, but guys were, guys, by the time they were 14 and a half and 1 day, they had to be engaged. Women, on the other hand, 13 and a half and 1 day, it was up to them. They could do what they want. They didn't have to get engaged. Mary didn't have to get engaged to Joe, but she did. Joe seemed a nice enough guy till it hit the rubber hit the road, and it turned out he was a creep. But because he didn't believe Mary. Yeah, I'm pregnant, but it's God. Okay, Mary. We're breaking up here. We'll do it quietly. I'll give you a get, but bye-bye. So Joe was kind of a creep. And not only did they have one wife, but guys would take several wives. And usually, in fact, in the oral law of Moses, the Mishnah, one of the earliest set of chapters, and that's a 1,000-page book, one of the earliest chapters is on co-wives, the rules of co-wives. Because you'd have, if a guy had a job and he was all together and he had arms and legs, you'd have probably 4 wives. Plus, if you had brothers and your brother died, you had taken his wives and their kids. And you couldn't call that good enough, because you had to make sure that if one of his wives didn't have a kid, you had to be about it to make sure that she did, if possible. And then you'd have to name this one after your brother. You couldn't even call this one your own. So that's how family life was. Jesus talks about it with the 7 brothers. Each one dies, and they marry the same woman. And the people say, well, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? And Jesus says, no, you don't get it, man. That's only for here. There's no marriage later. You didn't see that, did you? No. Good. Didn't do nothing. There's no marriage later. It's just now. But that was the structure. So when people said, well, we have biblical marriage, and so I ask them, if I do talk to them afterwards, how many wives do you have? They're like, huh? Well, if you got a job, if you're level-headed and got all your limbs intact, you should have 4 wives, co-wives. If a woman in the village wants to be married, well, then that's your duty, because you are commanded. Okay. Well, that's biblical marriage, and even the New Testament times didn't change. Paul talks about it. So, anyways, yeah. So here Jesus tells a story, but now knowing the structure of the family, if a guy's taking another wife, you think you pack up all your wives, all your kids, all their junk, and go somewhere else? No, the bridegroom doesn't go somewhere. The bride comes to the wedding feast, and maybe at the groom's house, main house, or tent, or at some sort of a friend's house who's got a bigger house, and they usually had rooms that were equipped had L-shaped tables or a larger group. Just kind of like a family's got a back room got a bigger, 16 by 30 type size. Anyways, so Jesus' story is not meant to be taken literally. Not at all. Let me just read it to you. Now knowing that, you'll see it. Then shall the kingdom of, this is Matthew 25, 1-13. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom comes, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps, and the foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, No, unless there be not enough for us and you, but you go buy some more. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they were ready, went in with them to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other one, saying, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Look, I really don't know you, not at all. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour where the Son of Man comes. That ends the text from Matthew 25, 1-13. This text isn't even about marriage. Obviously, he skews the story so badly that anyone listening, anyone who's Jewish, would listen to that and go, well, what's he doing? We don't get married like that. Who starts a wedding at midnight? What kind of idiot would you have to be to do that to your guests? Seriously? First off, the rabbi, he's in bed. Because I'm not showing up to a wedding at midnight for anyone. No way. We want to have a midnight cruise wedding. Okay, well, you go find someone. Good luck to you. I'm not doing it. Captain of the boat can marry you. There you go. Knock yourselves out. But no. And neither does the groom travel to where the bride is, along with all of his other wives, all of his kids and grandkids. It doesn't even make sense. Anyone listening knew that. So what's the point? Well, it's right there in verse 2. 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Now, Jesus picks 2 words here that are not commonly used by Jesus. It's a couple of words that are contrast words. One kind of goes like this with the other. You don't use one and not the other. That's the point. It's if you're going to contrast something, and the foolish would be moroi. We get the word moronic from it. Oh, that's not stupid, not ignorant, but contrary to your own best interests. That's really what that word means. And wise here isn't sophos or one of the other Greek words for intelligent. Hey, Bert, how you doing? And so isn't word for intelligent or sophos being wisdom. Instead, it's phronimoi. It has a sense of mindful of one's own self-interests. In other words, Jesus is purposely trying to talk to these people about an idea that they've never wrapped their heads around. They didn't even wrap their heads around the idea of the coming of the Messiah, much less the second coming of the Messiah. And as unprepared as they were for the first arrival, for the second one, they weren't even getting it straight. They didn't even know what to think about it. They didn't know. Even though Isaiah, Jeremiah, and all the major minor prophets had talked about it. Isaiah said, well, it'll kind of be like this, like you grab the bed sheet and shake it out, and all the crumbs and cookie bits go flying. Except when Isaiah said, all the dead will be shaken out. Because he was talking about the fabric of creation. And but they never wrapped their heads around that. Never was an idea in their minds. They didn't know what to expect. And Jesus' whole point in bringing these things up and why the church appoints us for the end of the church year each year is really kind of simple, so that we don't approach Advent, which is the next season of the new church year, Advent, preparing for Christmas, by looking at the texts that announce the coming of the Messiah or the Christ. Messiah and Christ, by the way, are the same word. Mashiach, Christos. Mashiach is Hebrew and Christos is Greek. And they just mean the anointed one, the coming one, the appointed one, or anointed. This is all it means. So they didn't recognize Jesus when he came, and I'm sure the second time around will be a bigger shock. But this is all this is about. And how, well, let me ask it this way. Are you wise? Are you one of the wise ones? Well, the answer is yes. Of course you are. How do you know? That's easy. It's not hard. Is God your friend? Of course. You're wise. One of the things that parents have to teach kids is know who your friends are. You know, they hook up with somebody at school who's already stealing at the local grocery and already getting drunk and is a bully and mean and abusive. And you tell your kids that this might not be a good friend for you. Don't you understand how this idea of friend works? They don't lead you down a road that's going to put your butt in jail, because that's where you're heading now. That child is going to be in jail. There's no hope for that one. But if you want to follow the same road, you're on your way. Good job. Well done, you. You're heading there quick. You're on a roller skate to, what is it? Highway to Hell, huh? There you go. The old Nazareth group, rock and roll. AC/DC. That's right. Highway to Hell. Bon Scott, you know. Anyways, yeah, perfect if that's your intention. But that's ignoring your best personal self-interest, isn't it? And see, what Jesus is talking about here is personal self-interest. And teaching his kids, figure out who your friends are, man. Because in life, that's really, really important. If you hook up with someone who's just all wrong, well, you're probably going to get swayed that direction. And God's like, did you not realize what I'm about? I called myself Dad. Did you not catch that? Dad. Our Father, you know? I called you my daughter. He was fond of calling Israel daughter of Zion. Zion is just the hill that Jerusalem's located at. He's basically calling his people his daughter. And that wasn't going real well. He talks about his daughter as a kind of a burned out whore laying on the city, the gutter along the street line there. And the soldiers passing by, and they don't even want her. They're like, just get out of our way. And that's how he describes his daughter, because she was a mess. Israel was a mess. They didn't want God. They turned their back on him repeatedly. In other words, they know who their friend was. I mean, you can make money your friend, but let me just end that with two words: drug dealer. Drug dealers have a lot of money, whole tons of money, suitcases full of it. Now, if you think someone who's got a lot of money is smart, well, that just makes you stupid, doesn't it? Because drug dealers have money. You want real big money? Cartels. They have more money than the nation states. I mean, come on. Know who your friends are. You make friends with them, you're going to end up in a metal barrel at the bottom of the Columbia River somewhere. I don't mean the one out in Washington. I mean the one down in Columbia. Yeah. So know who your friends are. And God is the best friend there is. How? Well, he calls himself Dad. First off, he wants us. He likes you. Go figure, huh? My wife has strained days where she looks at me and she just goes, would you please drive again? I had syncope and collapse, so I stopped driving. That's about 4 years ago. I haven't gotten behind the wheel since because I don't want to kill anyone. Just a thing. I don't want to drive over children. I know I'm funny about that, Call me crazy. But, yeah. So she looks at me and she's like, you're impossible. Well, that's my wife. I can only imagine what my kids think of me. My daughter's sitting with her arms crossed. Fortunately, my son-in-law's got a better approach. Thank heavens for the sons-in-laws, huh? Yeah, otherwise the kids would throw us in the dump. She's shaking her head. Yeah. So, know who your friends are. And God calls himself Dad because he likes us. He chose us. We didn't choose him. He even made us just the way you are. He likes how he made you. Go figure, huh, Care? Yeah, his doing, not mine. So God likes you. He made you. And it's just like with your kids, when you tell them, look out for your own interest. You don't want them to come to harm. You don't want them to be dead. You don't want to get a call from some state trooper saying, your kid is wrapped around a telephone pole out on the I-90 at 3 o'clock in the morning because the idiot he was driving with was hitting 180 miles an hour and was coked out. And they're at the top of a telephone pole wrapped pretty tightly around that thing, and they're all dead. Oh, well, yeah. Huh. Not how I wanted this to come to an end. No. That's how God is. He doesn't want us to be destroyed. There's one little sentence. Lutheran Confessions is this big old collection of 500-year-old writings, about 4 inches thick. But in reality, there's only one sentence that matters. God makes no one to destroy them. Summarize the whole thing just that. God makes no one to destroy them. And he really doesn't. And so he sent his son to be our brother. And he took care of all the stuff I really can't describe. Yes, he died for sin. What is sin? I don't have a clue. I don't know. It's not a little list of right and wrong. I know that much. I'm not that stupid. God slaughtered his son. Oh, because I didn't return $5 to Tops that they accidentally gave me too much back in? So that's why God slaughtered his son? Or because you said a bad word? That just sounds stupid. It's something far, far worse. A lot worse. So I can honestly say I don't know what sin is. And grace? Well, if I don't even know what the malady is, how much less do I understand the remedy? But I do know one thing, the net result. And the result is God opens his arms, calls us his children, and says, come on home. I don't have anything against you. Nothing. Now, you talk about knowing who your friends are. Can your friends raise you from the dead? Probably not. Can God? Yeah. Okay. Good friend. Does God wipe away all sins of the whole planet, everyone? Yeah. You got another friend that can do that? No. I mean, Bon Scott was a really good singer. I'm telling you, AC/DC, they're back. The boys back there grinding, and he's like screaming. He's ripping up parts of the microphone, and he's just belting, and speakers are blowing, and having a great old time down under. But they can't forgive the sins of the world, much as you might like AC/DC. Prepare a place for you in heaven forever with your family, to live with him as family. brothers and sisters living with God forever? You got another friend here that can do that? I'd like to meet him. The answer is no, you don't. Just be simple. So know who your friends are. We teach our children that. And that's all church is. Because it's in your self-interest. Church isn't, you know the old German word for church? Gottesdienst. God who becomes your servant. A diener is a servant. Gottes is God. God servant. You don't come to church to serve him. Hey, God, I came to church. You feel better? That just sounds stupid as well. No. We come to church for our own self-interest. He comes here to serve us, to be our servant, and to lower himself down. The humiliation of Christ wasn't that he became human, is that he became human and set aside everything wonderful, every all power, majesty, glory, to be with us. To call you brothers and sisters. That's it. That's religion. So if you know who someone who's looking for a friend, doesn't have one, or needs better friends, that's who God is. Just tell them about God. That's it. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I should turn this off here.